feels like a test that I fail, so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me.
I do try to stay positive, but I also stay real. And this is fucking real right now.
Hi, welcome to me.
Hi, editing Rosie, cutting in real quick. Just wanted to say hi, hello, what's up? I just got home from work. I basically work 8-hour days, and then I spend about an hour after work giving rides home to people. I make like an additional $30 in gas money doing that. It's working out well for me so far. I wanted to just jump in here to remind you guys, if you want to become a member, this video today was what was voted on in the comments of my members only live. I did my first Eat With Me lunch live, and I was talking about like what I was gonna do. So if you guys want that kind of input, you want early access to this video, videos like this, any of my vlogs, as well as, you know, special treatment in the chat in my lives, and again, exclusive access to members only content, please make sure to sign up. It's only like $2.99 a month, starting out for tier 1, and there are higher tiers depending on how much you want to support the channel. It is all very much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoy the story time. Later.
Y'all, I'm gonna pre-record this story time because it's currently topical to things that just happened right now. I don't know when this is gonna come out because a lot of the story time is old, but in terms of like what happened in my life, but I wanted to share the story. And there's an update as of literally like an hour ago to the story that started in fucking 2010, dude. I wanted to go ahead and tell you guys the story of my first real relationship. So, as with most things in my life, this is going to have a major trigger warning. There is going to be mention of
self-unaliving,
predator behavior towards minors, and just some dark themes, unfortunately. Nothing too graphic. I'm going to try to censor some of the more graphic parts of the story. It's really intense, and it's entirely surrounds like the first real relationship I ever had. So I've discussed in the past like the bullying, things like that, and how I dropped out of high school. And before I dropped out of high school, I had to switch classes around several times because I would switch between the tech degree and whatever the other degree was called. I think like the lit degree for getting your high school diploma. And so in the middle of the year, I switched into home ec, and this is how I met this person. I'm not gonna give him a fake name, and in fact, if I end up saying names, I may end up just having to like bleep and blur and edit, so I'll do my best. But my first ever ex is very different from the guy that I've referenced as my ex, because I really don't think about this guy or talk about this guy, and there's a reason why I'm making this video, because it wasn't of my own fruition. It really just kind of brought up all these memories, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to just like talk about this, make this video, and share what happened and everything. So we became friends. After initially I didn't even like him. I thought he was annoying. He's kind of like a weird kid, as I was too. We would like walk in the hallways to lunch, and people started their chitter chatter about us liking each other, and eventually I realized, I was like, oh shit, I think I might like this guy. And so eventually I told him over the phone, and he didn't say like anything for a couple days, if I remember right, or it was like a really long time. And then he ended up calling me and telling me that he liked me and he wanted to go out with me. There was a weekend, basically, and then I went back to school, and he was acting really weird, and that's when I found out that he was moving to Kentucky. I grew up in Georgia. I went to high school in Georgia. So we broke up, but we did like this weird friends with benefits thing for like until the end of the school year. And then he moved to Kentucky, and this was in like 2010. So internet wasn't like it is today. So he lived in like the sticks. He had no internet access of any kind. The only thing he would have is sometimes he was able to get his mom's cell phone. And this was like when calling after 9 was when it was free. So like I basically told him I would like wait for him. And that was indefinite at that point. And so for about 11 months to a year, you know, I remember specifically, like, there was at least one day where we started talking at 9 and we talked until the sun rose. And I had like a little slider phone with like the horizontal keyboard. Maybe it was called The Envy. I don't remember, but it was red. If I remember too, I'll go look at my Facebook. I think I have a picture of me with the phone I'm thinking of. In fact, I think I have a picture of me talking to him on the phone, like during this period of time. If I can find it, I'll put it up here. And he ended up calling me one day and telling me that he was moving back. And we end up like going to hang out, and we had a third friend. He was this really skinny emo dude. He's not super relevant to these stories, but he's sprinkled around a little bit there. And we all went and hung out. And I remember it was March 24th because my birthday was November 24th. March 24th was also my birthday was November 24th. March 24th was the birthday of someone that was like significant to me in high school. So March 24th was like kind of a big day in my head for those correlations. And I also remembered it so well because I took one of the best selfies I've ever taken in my life. And so like I would see it online and stuff, so kind of just reinforced that date in my head. I know that's so silly, but like especially at the time, this was pre me even knowing like what Reddit was. So, you know, like this is just like completely unresolved trauma Rosie over here. Which is why I accepted what I ended up accepting. So he asked me out, and I think he asked me out kind of at the behest of this friend. And we dated for a total of 5 months. Now, I like to bring up how I set that stage up, because I basically, especially at the time, I believe I fell in love with him like during the year he was gone. Like, cause I missed him so much. And, I was like, that was like when I got my GED. That was when I, like while he was gone was like when I worked at Target seasonally, and I was just kind of floating in life, and like I didn't really have a direction. And then all of a sudden I had a boyfriend for the first time. And, you know, we would like go to the park in a subdivision and look up at the full moon and talk about having our wedding under the moon. And like he was my date to my sister's wedding. She's still married to her husband. Like, he's in our fucking wedding photos and our family photos and stuff. Like, he had the audacity, as I tell you the story, you'll understand why I say this. He had the fucking audacity to dance with me to the song Amazed by Lone Star and lip sync the lyrics to me, when I don't think he ever actually liked me for any moment of any time. I think he used me. And again, we're going to get into all that. Because I think that we were friends, and I think that he liked the attention I gave him. I think that he liked the benefits of dating me. I had a car. I was young and dumb. And so like when we would go out, I tend to like pay for like the food and stuff. Like, this experience dating this guy I completely changed how I operate around dating and men entirely after this experience. And but during the time that we were dating, that 5-month period, I became friends with a girl that I had known growing up. She was friends with another girl that I had met through the church. She wasn't Mormon, but the girl I met through the church, they had like a lot of inner stuff between them, but we reconnected in like adulthood when I was 19. I remember specifically when we went to lunch at Panda Express, and then suddenly we were like best friends, and we became the Three Musketeers, me, him, and her. And we would hang out all the time. At the time, I would recall that summer as the best summer of my life, because I had friends, I had a boyfriend. I was like a full year out from the trauma of high school and all the bullying. I had done a little bit of work in therapy. I was still very much immature and young, and like I had a long way to go and figure shit out. But in the moment, absolutely, that was like the best summer of my life. And then like as time went by, I remember there was a specific incident where my mom came to me, and she was like, she expressed concern because she felt like acting a little too close, and I was extraordinarily offended. I was very angry. I ended up getting a boyfriend. Oh fuck, I'm not centering it. So this girl ended up getting a boyfriend. This boyfriend, I'm going to refer to him as V, a random letter. That's not relevant to his name either, but we're just going to call him V. And so I was just extremely offended, and I didn't agree with that. So we hung out all the time, the three of us. We all were like unemployed, early teen adults, like just trying to figure shit out. Yeah, like that's just, it was just the phase I was at in life at that time. It was in like early 2012 that like I started working and like kind of getting more into a step in life. But so August 24th at 2:00 in the morning, he reaches out to me over Facebook and breaks up with me. And I'm distraught, and he ends up coming over the next day and like consoling me, and like we're talking and whatever, and according to him there's no one else, whatever. 2 days after that, both of them were at my house. Unbeknownst to me, while I was on my laptop scrolling on Tumblr, they were in my driveway, and after she got off the phone with her boyfriend, they kissed in my driveway. For the first time. And it's important to note here that before this girl got a boyfriend, she would talk about this crush she had on a guy all the time and how great he was, all of these things. And she would always talk about how much she wanted to date him, and I'd be like, well, he's single, like just like try to express interest. And when I tried to like match make, she got really weird. That's gonna be really important to the story later. About 5 days after we broke up, 5 or 6 days after we broke up, they were at my house with me. No one else was home. And I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm on my little fucking NV keyboard phone. And V ends up texting me and informing me that my now ex, my first relationship I just ended, found out that he had a crush on my best friend. I flipped my shit because they're both in my room. So I just start hollering, and I'm like, get your ass in my car. I'm taking you home. Da 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 da. I'm like, because I think that, I think she had to wait for a ride or something. I don't know. I just know that I was pissed, and I was like, you need to come outside immediately. Like, don't fucking make me wait. Da 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 da. I get into the car, and I'm waiting, and I'm like really just, I'm heated, and I'm hurt. I'm really hurt. He comes out, and to this day, I don't think my parents know this, and my dad's probably gonna watch this video, so Dad, I'm sorry. But at the house we lived in at the time, we had this really long curved driveway, and so I was like waiting at the top of it by the garage. So he comes out from the back door, and he walks up to the door that like goes in between our garages, and he punches it with all of his might, to the point that later I did see knuckle indentations, but they were soft enough that no one ever noticed. But oh my god, I was mortified by that, because like had my parents found that out, oh my god, my ass would have been grass, man. They would have been pissed. But I mean, it wasn't my fault, but at the same time, he was my friend, my ex, right? But anyway, and he gets in the car, and we're talking, and then I ask him directly, I think intuition, because I didn't know this yet. I was like, have you kissed her? And he paused, and I asked again, and he said no. 2 days prior, he had. So the next day was when I went to the park, and I went to the park with him and the skinny emo friend. It was just the three of us. And they sit me down, and that's when they informed me that they had kissed and that he had been too scared to tell me, basically without, I guess, emotional support. I don't know. You're the one fucking around and acting like an asshole, but that's a whole other thing. So I remember, like, I just shut down. Like, everything shut down. I stood up. I was, like, catatonic a little bit, if I remember correctly. Like, I just was just, like, expressionless. Stood up, walked away, and then I walked, like, it was, like, a big loop in a park with a giant pond up in Jasper, Georgia. There's been a lot of renovation since, but at the time, it was mainly just, like, the pond, the sidewalk, maybe a couple picnic tables, not much else. And as I'm walking, and there's, like, other people around, I just silently have tears, like, streaming down my face, like, full on, like, dramatic, like, welts of tears just pouring down my face. I'm not making any noise. I'm just silently sobbing. And I finished the loop, and then I kind of wander off a little bit, and there was this, like, clear pasture. It was really circular. I used to describe it as, like, it kind of looked like the low budget version of that scene in Twilight when they go into that circular grove and like the sun's like, ah, like it was like the low budget version of that. And so I walk into the center of that field, and then I just collapse on the ground, and then I just have a full sobbing moment. And I was like trying to call friends because I just needed someone to talk to, and it wasn't going to be either of those fuckers. I just needed someone to talk to, and no one was picking up the phone. And my parents and I had a very tumultuous relationship at the time. I did not trust them. We had not recovered from a lot of things yet. So it was kind of a big deal that I called my mom in this moment, because I normally tried to keep everything away from them because I didn't have a relationship of trust with my parents. And so when I call her and I'm like crying and I'm explaining to her what I found out, what happened, she just went real cold, like not at me, but just like, because she had a positive opinion of this guy until this moment. This was the moment he died to her. I told her, and that's when he walked up and he heard me say mom, and he was like, no, like what the fuck, like whatever. Don't be a piece of shit then if you don't want my mom to hate you, fucker. And so then this is where I've mentioned this story. So this is where I was standing in that field. The sun was starting to come down. We were going to need to go because my mom was like, come home immediately. And that's when I got chased by bears. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. Like, that was the day, the moment that the bears chased us. We were standing in the field. The skinny emo friend was by the car. All of a sudden, I see him. When I say he was running full speed, I'm talking Sonic Super Hedgehog motherfucking, like, go, gadget, go mode. Like, I had never seen that kid move that fast in my life. And he's saying something as he's running. And as he gets closer, it was kind of like that, like, sonar moment where he's just going, like, bear, 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 bear. So it was, like, started out quiet, got really loud, and then got quiet again as he ran past me. And I went, huh? And I look up, and lo and behold, right there by the car, 2 fucking brown bears. And I'm on the phone with a friend at this point, and we have to walk through the woods, like all the trees in that circular area, because on the other side of that was a paved road. So we had to cross through that, and I was on the phone with her, and I was explaining to her what happened, and she's like, well, as long as you don't have any food on you, you should be okay. And I was like, so-and-so? She was like, yeah. What if I told you I had 2 pounds of chocolate in my purse right now? Because I was on some fat activities that day, I guess. CVS had like some sales going. I don't know. And and this is like, again, after an extremely emotionally like draining situation. They both turned back and go, what? In retrospect, it was funny. In the moment, it was absolutely terrifying. So I was just like, sorry. So we get to the road and we start walking. So we have to basically take a really long route to go all the way to like where the car is. And it seriously delayed us. And so as that's happening, we see the bears were like just where we were at, and they were like sniffing around and everything. And so we're just like trying to like book it. And then they followed our path. Like they might have, honest to God, smelled the chocolate in my purse. I don't know. So we finally get to the car, and once I got close, I like, again, I was like 500 pounds at this point still. And so, but I had youth on my side. So I booked it to the car, like my version of go gadget. And we get in the car, and like, I'm just like, this is crazy. And like I told my mom, and she didn't believe me. And honestly, I get it. But she got mad at me, and she thought I was lying. I wasn't. I got chased by bears. And it was 2 days after that things took a really dark turn. It had been going on prior. There had been a lot of emotional manipulation on his side. He was self-harming and kind of using that as a mode of manipulation. And one night we went to the park in the subdivision. So this story's a fucking roller coaster. So I guess I was just laughing, but this is very serious and not funny. And this fucked me up for many years, honestly. And we had just found all this out. All this was going on. He was scared to lose me as a friend. And because I had just said, like, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I think I need to like walk away and heal. I didn't want to be, I was like, I don't think I want to be friends anymore. Like, I don't think this is good for me, kind of a vibe, even though I didn't want to cut off connection with him. And my best friend seemed conflicted. She had a boyfriend, but she had feelings for my boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, too. And the instrument that he had on him is what he used to self-harm. He was standing in front of us, and I don't remember a lot of the conversation. But at some point, he pulled out that instrument and opened it. And he went to his... in front of us. And so, when he did that, I panicked. And I jumped him. I literally ran at him, tackled him to the ground, and I was on the side of the instrument. And this girl did the same thing after me on the other side. And he was very strong. So strong that in hindsight, I eventually realized that if he had wanted to overpower me, he could. But he used just enough restraint to make me fight as I tried to rip the instrument out of his hand. And at some point I started screaming, and we're talking, this is like 11 o'clock at night in a park in like a suburban neighborhood in northern Georgia. And like, so we're in like the parking lot where like the pool is and the playground is. And there's no one else there except the guy that my friend was dating was waiting in the car for this conversation we were having. He heard me screaming, and thank God he ran out and he was able to get the instrument out of his hand. And this is where me being like a 19 teenager comes into play, and I was a big old fucking idiot. We didn't call the police. We didn't call any adults. We handled it on our own. If I remember correctly, we basically did the thing where like, because I think this is like a thing that was like a safety contract, was kind of like a thing with a lot of the emo friend groups that I had, where like you would write basically pledge to not hurt yourself. There's so many things I would do differently about this entire story if it was today, me, you know, but that all happened, and it happened so fast, and it was so scary, and I walked away, and I kind of wandered like more towards the pool area, because this was a little bit closer to the road by the sidewalk where the incident took place. The fact that there were no witnesses, the fact that like no one else called the cops is like shocking to me, but here we are. And I remember it was like about a full moon, or it might have not been a full moon, but the full moon was very big and mostly full at least. And I walked over, and for the second time in the span of like 2 or 3 days, I fell to my knees on the ground and just looked up at the sky. And broke down crying. That was the moment I realized I needed to stay his friend. And I proceeded to go through 3 months of horrific psychological abuse in one of the most toxic dynamics I've ever experienced in my life. I found out during that time that while we were dating, my best friend had a crush on my boyfriend, and because she couldn't tell me that, she used his best friend's name in place of my boyfriend's name to tell me, oh, I like him so much, oh, da 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 da. She admitted to my fucking face that she lied about being assaulted to get attention from my then boyfriend before we broke up and to be comforted. She completely fabricated a story from beginning to end, and then had the gall to admit that to me. Still can't get over that one. We broke up August 24th. By September 6th, they were official. They ended up dating for 8 years. And honestly, in hindsight, what I ended up realizing was that was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And again, we'll get into more on that in a bit, because I'm going to have to kind of gloss over some things just because this story is over the span of a decade. So, in that 3-month period, they had a pregnancy scare. They asked me to be the godmother, because when he and I were together, we never did the deed together. But within like days of them getting together, they were. And that was one of the first indicators to me that I had been used, and that what I thought had been a good relationship wasn't. I was so used to being dehumanized. I was so used to being mistreated that just the potential like aspect that I was being treated positively felt like a good thing, when in actuality I had been love bombed, and then I had been used, and then I had been discarded when something better was potentially coming along. And he manipulated his way into that relationship. Some shit happened. I eventually got so sick of it. Like, it was like they were purposefully very like PDA in front of me to a point that was like really inappropriate. Like, even if it wasn't within that situation, like the level of like things they would do in front of me bordered on like X-rated sometimes. It was just really, really fucking inappropriate. And I'm still a recovering people pleaser. And I look back at that situation and I just want to shake myself, but I don't know what else to say other than I didn't know better. And I was so broken, and at that point I was so scared of being the reason that someone killed themselves, because he had successfully manipulated me. Eventually I got so angry and hurt, and just like I eventually just kind of woke up a little bit, not fully, but a little bit. And I just said, fuck them all, and cut them off for a time. We ended up reconnecting. And this was around the time we reconnected. I was like 21-ish. And that was around the first time I had started like partaking in the THC. And we actually got rolled up on by police because we were idiots. And again, I don't think my parents know this because I successfully got away with this. I don't know how they would have responded. But basically he took the fall, partially to seem like the good guy, but also he was purposefully like antagonistic with the cop. And I played it really cool. And he ended up taking the fall. And then when he found out the legal fees, he blackmailed me and tried to extort me by threatening to use his girlfriend's mom to contact my parents if I didn't pay a certain amount of the legal fees, with money I didn't have. But I basically ended up paying the blackmail. Which the timing of this was shortly after the other blackmailing story I've shared in the past that's unrelated to this. Which is just crazy. My life was insane. I don't know. So obviously we stopped being friends for a long time. And then for some fucking reason, after that, there was like one more reconnection that happened. And this is like where I was a piece of shit. So just heads up on that. But I felt justified at the time. And I had no remorse at the time. I don't even know if I necessarily have remorse, but I have regret because I'd rather would have just had the maturity to have walked away and just figured out how to heal on my own. But this is one of the shittiest things I've ever done. We had reconnected and we were hanging out at this girl's house. It was just the three of us. And she had gone off to go do something with one of her friends, and he and I were just hanging back. And he had been like slowly setting up the stage. Like the night before, he randomly like played like adult content off of like a PS2 or 3 or something. Some kind of console on the TV. And we sat on the back porch the night before, and he told me all these stories about like how hot he thought all of his then girlfriends, my ex-best friends, friends were. I think he had already gotten caught at least cheating one time by this point. He cheated on her a lot, and with multiple of her friends too. He was just, God, he was a piece of shit. And he like purposefully like mentioned every person in her life that I knew, plus more, except for me. And I remember I asked like what he thought about me or whatever, and then that ended up bridging into us hooking up. And I did not fully realize like how much resentment I held towards this girl, because yeah, he broke my heart, he hurt me, and that sucked. But that girl was my best friend. Like, we had become inseparable. At that point, we had been best friends. And then she just turned on me. And to me, I guess it's like being the girl's girl kind of person. Like, I could literally never do that to my friend. I could never do what she did to me to anybody. And then you add on to the fact she lied about being assaulted. You add on to the fact that she played some fucking wild mental games with me without me knowing. And I think she faked a pregnancy scare too. I can't believe I went through that. And so we ended up hooking up, and she ended up eventually finding out, and she stayed with him. Basically, that all happened. I was single at the time, but I was the other person, and I did it at her house. So it was like, at the time for me, it was like, you kissed him at my house when we had just broken up. Now we're even. That was my frame of reference at the time. Very, I would say, toxic, very immature, very like vengeful action on my part. But I truly, like, I hated her at the time, and I was trying to not hate her, and like a part of me wanted to try to be friends, but I just deep down I hated her so much for being able to do that to me. And so the next day after all that had happened, and she had come back, and I'd kind of watched everything play out. And again, I'm trying to breeze by here because I've already been talking for 30 minutes, and we're still like 9 years ago right now. So actually, yeah, this story actually probably technically spans closer to 15 years than 10 years. But he just I remember he like treated me so carelessly and callously, like, because I went to him, basically was like, well, now what? Like, what's going on? And he just was like, what do you mean? Like, and he said something to me. I wish I remembered what he said. I just don't. But I remember looking at him. I remember seeing the expression on his face. I remember, at the time, I didn't realize I was looking being a narcissist in the face. I didn't understand that. But this person is wholeheartedly a narcissist through and through. I don't know, man. I had a theme. I've attracted like a few narcissists in my life. And he is by far absolutely one of them. I remember I looked at his face and I was like, oh wow, you really are a piece of shit. Like, in my head, I was like, I'm grossed out. I'm over this. I'm done. And I walked away. He tried to pop him back up a few times. And the last time he had tried to pop up, I was in my mid-20s. And he came to me after having blackmailed me, after everything that had happened, after everything he had done. He came to me when we weren't friends to ask me for money for a cell phone bill. And I was like, are you really asking me for money? Like, really? After everything you've done? Like that. I wasn't even yelling at him. I wasn't even like being malicious or anything. I was just like, are you serious? Like, I'm a little offended. You have the gall, the gumption to do that. And he freaked out at me, yelled at me, gaslit me, and just like, and then blocked me because I didn't give him the money. And that was the last time I talked to him. And I think he might have already started being in and out of jail at that point. It started out with petty drug charges, and then it escalated. And most recently, I think I've mentioned it in passing, like, I had been told by this girl that at some point we became Facebook friends. I actually just blocked her. We're about to get to that. But we became Facebook friends, even though, I don't know. I think it was like part morbid curiosity, part just like whatever. Like, I did not consider her a friend, but we were Facebook friends. And she watches my stories on Instagram. She might see this video. And you know what? I don't regret that. Because she might not be the same person that she was then. But what I found out was worth me cutting off contact. Because I don't want people that do crappy things or are crappy people to have access to me. I just don't. He had been in and out of jail. And eventually at some point I found out he was starting to get into like harder stuff. Because at the time, Georgia had a really extremely strict, like, THC, like, drug laws and stuff. And so he started getting into, like, white powdery substances and much more, like, harder shit and going to jail for those things. And then she confirmed to me that the most recent time he had gone to jail, allegedly, because we ain't getting sued today, was related to chomo charges. So this next part of the story is baffling to me. Fast forward to less than a week ago. I get a DM from a random profile with like a kind of anime-ish picture and a random name that I've never heard of before. And I'm just gonna read some text messages to you guys. So again, it's like a random profile, random name. An old friend of yours named blank wants to know if he can contact you, ask me to message. And I go, blank who? One, because I was like, that was the name I ended up thinking of. It took me a second to think, like, who do I know with that name? Because it's been over a decade since a lot of this has happened. And then they go, blank, blank. And I say, what the fuck, why? And then something about wanting to connect with old friends. And I said, I'm more than good. Thanks for reaching out. And then they respond, okay, I'll let him know. And I hearted it. And then I walked away. This was, they sent the message on June 17th, but I didn't see it until like June 30th or roughly like July 1st, like in that area, give or take a couple days. And I left that alone, and my best friend, who I've known for a long time, who found out about the story like a long time ago, I contacted her and she's like, yeah, block him. And I was like, I will. And I didn't immediately. I will say this is blocked now. But because when I clicked on this profile, I haven't mentioned this part yet. When I clicked on this profile, it was newer. It was like a very new profile. It's a new account. A random name that just, I don't know, I got sussy vibes. And the only posts I could see and the only mutual friend I could see were the ones that this girl was tagged in, and there were a lot of posts. And then eventually I saw a second name, this other girl, and I knew that name. I know that was someone he was once very close with. Like, it was a name I recognized, and I was like, this is him, and he's pretending to not be him, I guess, to prevent me from like lashing out in response. So tonight, about an hour before I started filming this, about almost 2 hours ago, I said something that I had typed up. So the first message I said, actually, you can pass this along, then I'll be blocking you and I want absolutely no contact ever again. And I sent a really long message, and I'm going to read parts of it. I'm going to have to censor some of it because some of the language is, I think, a little too graphic for TOS regarding some of the traumatic parts earlier. And I said blank, period, his name. While you have lacked a lot in this life, the thing you have never lacked in is audacity. To even think that contacting me in any form ever again is absolutely proof of that. I shouldn't be as shocked as I was when you reached out. Last I heard, you were in jail for chomo charges.
Allegedly. Again.
Which is why I'm so shocked that blank is in contact with you at all. So, when that happened, the reason I have a screenshot of the initial texts is because I took them, sent them to my best friend, and then I contacted that girl who I haven't spoken to in a long time. And I was like, I sent the text and I was like, are you aware of this? Have you heard from him? And that's when she told me, this woman with a whole ass child told me that she's been in communication with him and talking with him. Excuse me? I didn't say anything to her back, like, significantly until tonight before I blocked her. Disgusting. Because I don't know a lot of details. I know that he had claims that it wasn't, like, that he was innocent.
Say it with me. Allegedly.
But he was serving time for chomo charges. That's what I was told. But you know, the person who told me has lied about some serious shit. So it's like, is that true? I don't know now. And I don't care anymore. But anyway. And I continue, my God, she has a child. Then again, she did date blank and didn't immediately break up with him. I didn't even touch on this part. So the guy that she ended up dating, that she was dating before she got with my then very recent ex-boyfriend. One night when we were all hanging out, he confessed to us that he had been a predator towards minors. And this attributed to so much of my stress, because I skipped over some parts of this that are very dark, about how I behaved, things that I did to myself. I went through so much stress. This was one of the first times where, like, I think I went through like 2 weeks where I really couldn't eat. I remember one time I tried to eat like a medium fry from Burger King and my stomach hurt so bad that I sobbed and I couldn't eat more than 2 fries because of the amount of stress that I went through during this period of time in my life. And it was during that period of time that I found this out, and I was floored. I was so angry and grossed out, and I grilled him and I asked him all these questions because, like, I had a lot of unresolved trauma still about my experiences as a 6-year-old, and I had an opportunity to talk to someone who was like that, and I just remember leaving that conversation not feeling much better. So I don't recommend it. But she didn't immediately break up with him. And that's crazy. And I think even upwards of, like, in the past year, he tried adding me on Facebook again. That guy. I don't want no part of that. I've not been friends with him for like a decade or more. Like, seriously, more than a decade. When I say I have lived multiple Lifetime movies, I'm not fucking lying. I used to describe this whole arc that I'm telling you guys right now as a Lifetime movie. It very much is. Anyway, even still, she told me, and then I continued on, even still, she told me about how abusive and disgusting you were to her.
Honestly, just to cover my ass, allegedly.
I'm absolutely baffled by both of you. I won't get into it, but there were times in prior conversations that she told me things that really solidified that the best thing that ever happened to me was getting this monster out of my life. I've reached peaks of success in my life I never thought possible. I am doing so well. I have an internet career that I'm working hard on. I have healed myself and worked on myself in ways I never thought possible. I have finally moved past what you put me through. I have finally moved past what you put me through. The joy in my current stage of life is immense, and I will never want to share that with someone who used me, pretended to like me, to keep using me, to then turn around and do the horrific psychological abuse you did to me when you tried to in front of me and blank. Making it clear that we are the motives. So you ended up keeping me as a friend far longer than you ever deserved and got the chance to wreak havoc on everyone around you like the drug-infested tornado you were. And then I put in parentheses, R ? I don't know and I don't care. I know what it's like to be truly loved by someone now. We had been together for 8 years. We weren't perfect, but I was actually loved. He actually treated me like he was attracted to me. He didn't just treat me as a means to an end, a car to be driven in, a source to buy cigarettes or pay for meals. He treated me like I hung the moon, like I was beautiful. He treated me like I deserved for the majority of our relationship. But you chewed me up and spit me out like a 25-cent gumball and discarded me like any emotional, vampiric narcissist would its supply. You used me to cheat on blank, like with multiple of her other friends. You've been in and out of jail at your now grown age and think you have the right to refer to me as a friend after you were so fucking abusive to me, ripped my heart, my teenage soul to shreds, and then blackmail and extort me for money. The last time we spoke, you asked for money for a cell phone bill. You exploded at me when I had the nerve to be offended. You asked for money when we weren't friends, and you blackmailed me. You've always been a professional gaslighter. Blank, I nothing you. I don't wish you ill. I don't wish you well. I wish you nothing. You don't get access to me. You don't get the benefits of my love, my friendship, my care, attention ever again. You have time and again chosen the wrong things over and over and over with no fucking regard to how it impacts the world around you. You disgust me. I blocked him, and then I took those screenshots and I sent a message to this girl. I explained to her, I'm not going to read it, I'll paraphrase that. I explained to her that I sent these messages, that I do not understand why she's in communication with him. I'm baffled. I did say I lost the last shreds of respect I got for you when you left him. And that I hope you figure it out. And I tried really hard to not be mean. I don't think I was mean. She might receive it as being mean. But I did state that you have a child. What are you doing? What are you doing? Even if you think you don't deserve better, your child does. I've blocked them both. I don't know if either of them will try to contact me. I only blocked this girl on Facebook. I know she follows me on Instagram. I don't really care. If she tries to reach out to me, I'll probably just block her there too. But I know she watches my stories I know she watches my stories fairly regularly. I have no idea if she keeps up with my YouTube, but yeah. I don't know. I think when it comes to trauma, it's just so interesting to realize and see just how much patterns repeat when you are stuck in unhealed spaces. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt, I would never let myself be in a situation anything near like that ever again. I was messy too. You know, I was young and naive. I didn't know shit about fuck. And I didn't know my ass from my elbow. And I certainly wasn't perfect, but I sure as shit didn't deserve what happened. That much I know. And I think the reason a lot of these memories have come up so clearly for me is because I was kind of re-triggered by being contacted. I thought I would never hear from this person again. And it's like, it's just, I'm doing well. I know my name's out there on the internet. I don't know. Obviously he didn't mention himself. So like, I don't know if he's been watching my videos. I don't know, like, if what he knows about my internet presence or anything, you know what I mean? And but it's like he's such an opportunistic person that like could very well see that he could just see like the momentum of success that I'm trying to gain for myself and wanting to leech off of that because it's just who he is. That's who he's always been. And I didn't see it for a long time. That was a lot to relive. And what's so crazy is there's so many other like side arcs, side stories. But I did keep this under an hour. I'm actually kind of impressed. It was around the breakup time when Rocky kind of developed into my emotional support cat. I've been thinking about getting a cat once I've worked for a certain amount of time, if I'm able to maintain my income. And I want to buy like a litter robot and a couple other things first before I start looking for a cat, just so I can have it all here. Because, you know, I just want to make sure that I have everything that I'll need when the cat arrives. But I want to rescue like an older cat because I miss having that connection with an animal, you know? I think back to that girl, how broken she was, how sad she was. I remember I would talk about it like for a long time, like when I went through that breakup, like I felt my entire heart shatter in a way I had never experienced before. It was my first heartbreak, and of course my first heartbreak was that level of traumatizing. Why wouldn't it be? Yeah. And that's the thing. That was the theme of my life. It is no longer. I've come a long way in realizing what I'm willing to accept, what I deserve. And I had to completely shatter into a million pieces and build it piece by piece by piece back up into a much stronger, better foundation. And I'm so glad that I did, because, you know, that happened and I was single for 2.5 years after that. I moved on probably a few months after the whole me and him hooking up again thing. And, like me and my first ex. After that happened, I think I might have had already met my most recent ex. But I was like I remember I was in talking phases, because at that point was when I was doing like the amateur Reddit stuff. And so I was like talking with different people, and I was just in a different phase of life, and it was just weird. It was a weird time. And when I had like fully let go of that, and I got to like a place where I was like, I am just super content with being single. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. Like it's gonna come when it's meant to. And then within a couple months, I was like seriously involved with the guy I ended up dating for 8 years. I've never been a relationship hopper, and I'm really thankful for that. I've never been the person who has felt like I've had to be in a relationship to feel validation. I will say that like the first 1 to 2 years of like after he and I had the breakup and all the stuff that transpired, like it really wore me down into like a shell of myself. And also this was only a few years out from, well, when we got together, I was only a year out from leaving Mormonism, you know, like I was still processing that religious trauma. Like it was just like stack on stack on stack on stack, you know. And I think back on that girl and I just want to give her a hug. And, you know, as much as things went the way that they did with my most recent ex, I got to have that healing of experience of knowing what being loved is like. To being like authentically loved. It sucks how things ended. It sucks that there was a time where I questioned if that was ever real or not because of how things transpired. But when I think back to like earlier on in the relationship, and even when like we first were living together and stuff, I got to know what it was like to have someone hold me in such a high regard and love me as much as I loved them, or even almost as much, you know, like realizing that I had fallen in love with someone who felt nothing for me was hard. It was so hard to accept that. But I know damn fucking well that experience made me realize that'll never happen again. I will never let that happen again. Because I had a role in that. I was broken and traumatized, and I accepted at the time what I felt I deserved. I didn't know that. I thought I had such a great boyfriend and all these things, but a great boyfriend doesn't barter affection, you know? And he did. That was really gross. So let me wrap up this video by saying this. I would say know your worth. I met him when I had no sense of self-worth, no sense of self-love. I found that after all of that. I had no sense of self, really. I just knew that there was someone who wanted to be my boyfriend that I actually liked, that I thought I loved. What I experienced wasn't love. I cared for him deeply. I really wanted to be with him. I had strong emotions, but what we had wasn't love. It was never love. And it took me a really long time to accept that, and I'm glad I did. I deserved so much better. And I do deserve even beyond far better than that, you know? So I'll never settle for less. I'm not worried about how long I'm going to be single. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. Because I will be single when I meet the person who's right for me. I won't accept anything less than that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Wonderful evening wherever you are. Stay true.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops.